Excuse me. Bless you. Good morning, everyone. We'll get started here shortly. Let me make sure the chat is open. All right. Good morning. I see everyone joining us here on the YouTube channel. Welcome. And for those of you who are joining inside of the Zoom this morning, I welcome you. We're going to go ahead and get started with this morning's presentation. If you're with us this morning, go ahead and drop your salutation in. If you have comments, you can put them in there and we'll circle back. So let me give it a 10-second delay. That way I can start my edits a little easier. Well, good morning. Welcome to Solutions for Living. Particularly this morning, you have joined me for our Solutions Sunday seminar. The title of this today's message is Today I Resolve to See Only the Good. So let's start with a question that might just change your life and perhaps set the tone for everything we're going to explore this morning. Our key takeaway: when you resolve to see only the good, you activate a divine lens that transforms your perception and your feelings and ultimately your reality. So we're going to dive into that this morning. What might shift your life just for today? You resolve to see only good. Could be that very thing. So, this is more than just a nice thought. It's a radical spiritual practice that I want to introduce you to this morning. One that says no matter what's happening on the surface, I will choose to trust the goodness at the core. Again, no matter what's going on in your life, you're going to reframe and choose to trust the goodness at the core. So let me start by sharing a moment that changed me. Um, Years ago, almost 10 years ago, I found myself in what felt like a complete collapse. My real estate investments had failed through, and they fell really hard. And the decisions that I believe were sound ended up compounding the situation. Before I knew it, I had lost practically everything. It wasn't just financial, it was emotional for me, spiritual, even what you may call existential. I felt like I was drowning in shame and self-doubt. Yes, it was shame because as a public figure, a lot of people watching what goes on in my life, and it just felt I was just on display. But something said to me, look again. So I paused and I asked, where is the good in this? At first, nothing looked redeemable, but I kept asking. Day after day, layer by layer, my spiritual vision began to adjust. And over time, what looked like was devastating revealed itself as a divine redirection. Yes, a redirection. What I thought was the end was actually the foundation for everything that I now teach, live, and offer. That was the moment I became a God seer, or I saw with much more clarity. I saw from a different perspective. So this morning, I want to welcome you to Solution Sunday. I'm Greg Stanton, for those of you who don't know. I'm also known as a SAR. Today's session is called Today I Resolve to See Only the Good. This is your personal invitation to become a spiritual seer, to shift from outer appearance to inner knowing. So this morning, go ahead and type into the chat, I choose to see good. That is, if you're open to a new lens today. So let's root ourselves in two spiritual anchors as we jump into this morning's lesson. Two divine truths that shape today's message. The first of which being Romans 8:28. All things, not some things, all things work together for good to them that love source. I know we're accustomed to say loving God. And in Genesis 1, the other key scripture this morning is, and God saw that it was good. Now, I want you to say that 7 times this morning. While you're saying that, I'm going to see what's going on with my chat. This is not enabled. I want everybody to see that. Let me see here. Okay. Let me see. It should be active. This now. Go ahead. All right, there it is. There it is. You should be able to. Yeah, there you go. Great. Thanks for letting me know that. So those two key scriptures again was Romans 8:28 and Genesis 1 in particular, where we see that Source saw that it was good, even in the midst of things not really being good because they were chaotic. Source shows us that in the midst of what you see, you create what you want to be. Okay? So when we look at Romans 8:28 and Genesis 1, these aren't just poetic scriptures. They are metaphysical blueprints that I want you to begin to take on. So the first point this morning is spiritual sight is a choice. Realize that it's not a reaction. Okay. When it's reactionary, you're really operating in the one-dimensional realm of sight or what you can see with the natural eyes. But when you choose to walk not by sight, but by the principle of faith, your spiritual sight becomes the thing you move through life with. So when we look in Genesis 1, and God saw that it was good. This line appears repeated in Genesis not to describe the condition of the physical world, but to highlight the consciousness of the creator. Source's vision is not reactive as well as yours. It should be creative. In metaphysical terms, this means that what we see is not simply what is. It's what we call into being through our perception. What we see often is the catalyst for us to create what we want to experience. To be made in the image and likeness of Source is to share in its divine power of seeing. When we resolve to see only the good, we're not ignoring what is. No, I'm not telling you to act as if what is isn't, but when we resolve to see only the good, we're not ignoring what is. We are anchoring ourselves in what is possible and what is spiritually true, even when it's not visible. Yes, I said that. When it's not visible, yet we're anchoring ourselves in the fact that it is, in fact, spiritually true. Okay, we are aligning with divine intelligence, which sees goodness embodied or embedded in all beginnings, even the uninformed ones. Spiritual sight is an act of spiritual authorship. It is to say, I choose, yes, to see what Source sees. In doing so, we become co-creators of our experience. And that's what we are called to do. Now, I want to invite you to name one current situation where you're being called to shift from fear to spiritual sight. It could be a diagnosis. It could be tons of bills laying in there on the table. It could be impending layoff. But I invite you this morning to look at this situation and look at it very differently. Now, the second point I want you to explore today and take away for this week is everything is working together, even what looks like it isn't. You often hear me saying, things are always working out for me even when they don't appear to be working out for me, things are working out for me. During that time in my life, when I was really stressed, when I was really going through some things, this is one of the statements that I found that gave me a sense of peace, a sense of assurance that things were going to be all right. So the scripture says in Romans 8:28, all things work together for good to them that love God. And I want you to know that word all is intentional. That means everything, that inconvenience that you're going through right now, it's working together. But you got to change your spiritual side on how you look at it. When we look at this particular scripture, Romans 8:28, which happens to be one of my favorite scriptures, metaphysically in this passage, all things include the painful, the confusing, the delayed, and the unexpected. The spiritual meaning is that every circumstance, whether welcomed or not, is part of a greater orchestration. Love is the harmonizing principle that binds the parts into divine order. That is the love that Source has for you, that it will not see you left in dismay or even discouraged. It is there for you. You just have to shift. To love God or Source metaphorically means to remain anchored in divine consciousness, to align your heart and perception with the truth of unity, purpose, and unconditional good. Not looking at things as though I must have done something wrong or this is a karma that's coming to me. Now, that's not to say that karma doesn't come, but many of the things that we are experiencing in our lives is a direct result of choices we've made. And sometimes they just so happen to be those bridges of incident that source has allowed or the universe has allowed to come into fruition, and it really positions you for growth. So when you face a hardship or a loss, like the real estate collapse I mentioned earlier that I experienced, you can still affirm this too is working together for my good. Even when you don't understand the how, you can affirm the divine why. That is growth, clearing, redirection, and preparation. Maybe you're growing. You're moving into something bigger, something better, something different. Maybe it's getting rid of some things that need to be loosed from your life. Maybe it's a redirection. It's a time to go in another direction. Or you can just be being prepared for greater that's to come later. And for those of you listening who are experiencing the natural disasters, you want to look at it as though even this too has passed and look at it as if, guess what? Things are working out. They're already worked out for me. So this verse reminds us we are not victims of life. Even though sometimes we may feel victimized and to everybody around you, you look like a victim. But we are not victims of life. We're participants. We are witnesses to a deeper unfolding. Even breakdowns can become part of a breakthrough. Okay? And sometimes this breakthrough comes because of the breakdown. And so you have to, sometimes in the midst of going through, you just have to be still and know this, that you are source. You are God. You have the ability to shift the situation. But what you focus on has a tendency to grow. Okay. So have you ever seen a difficult moment later reveal itself as itself as necessary? Can you look back over a difficult moment and now looking at it, you see that it was necessary? And if you can, just go ahead and type yes in there. Now, our third point this morning of the three that I wanted to cover as you may be going through something right now And this is a real key point. And it's the perception, that is, perception feeds your feelings, and your feelings shape your reality. Your perception creates a certain vibrational frequency, and this frequency will shape into the reality that you're dealing with or that you're experiencing. The scripture, Romans 4 and 17, tells us, call those things which be not as though they were. How many of you can say you're guilty of calling it as it is? You know, you often say it is what it is, or you often say I'm keeping it real. So you're not really operating this principle found in Romans 4:17 that tells us we are to call those things which be not. That is, they are in existence. It's a possibility, but it's not what is on the screen of your life. So you want to learn to call it the way you want it to be, not calling it as you see it right now. And that's really key. We're so accustomed to calling things by what we are currently experiencing. Let's look at the metaphysical interpretation of this particular scripture. This scripture speaks to the divine creative capacity that lies within each one of us, you and I. When we perceive through the eyes of spiritual truth, we begin to affirm what we desire before it manifests. We begin to resonate. We begin to emit a frequency even before it manifests in this realm. But now you're operating from the invisible to the visible, and you're operating inside of the feeling realm. Neville Goddard, he does a great job. He emphasized that feeling is the secret. Now, you've heard me say this time in and time out, and I really want you to get it, that the feeling is the secret. The resonance is the secret. But the precursor to feeling is perception, how you see a thing, how you choose to see your current situation, your current life. If you view life through lenses of lack or fear, sickness, disease, failure, impossibleness, it all follow. But if you choose to perceive good and only good, even when it's hidden, your feelings shift into harmony with the vision. And what you feel deeply, you begin to experience eternally. So, what you're experiencing today is oftentimes a direct result of the feelings we felt, the resonance that we held. Now, recently, about a month ago, my car I was hit in an accident. I was in a lane that I even should not even been involved in the accident, but one of the cars careened into my car. And right then, I knew in my knower that all the time that I had given thought to how bad people drive, I was magnetizing my vehicle for that experience. And so you have to really watch what you're thinking often, because what you think often is actually programming. It's the prompt. What you think frequently becomes the prompt that ultimately gives you what you don't really desire. But guess what? The program doesn't know it. It gives you what you put into it. So this is the metaphysical cycle. Perception, how you see things, how you perceive things, feelings aligned with belief equal manifestations. So if your perceptions are off, your manifestation is going to be off. If there's no true resonance with, or if you don't understand that my resonance tells me what I believe, and what I believe tells me what I'll create. Jesus said to that individual, it is done unto you as you believe. And your beliefs are substantiated by your feelings, and your feelings start with your perception. So when you resolve to see only good, you are engaging the first and most critical step in creation. Okay. You are aligning your consciousness with your highest truth, not with what's happening. So it's so easy to get caught up in what's happening, but you want to get caught up in what's becoming. And what's becoming is predicated on what you're saying, what you're feeling, what you're emoting, what you're desiring. Now, okay, now I want you to really this week think about what new feeling you want to cultivate this week. What new feeling? Is it around illness? Is it around finances? Whatever it is if there's a contrast showing up in your life, use that as the example. So I want you to know that it's important that these 3 points are looked at this week. Your spiritual sight is a choice. It's not a reaction. So you got to stop being moved by what you see. You got to stop. It's one thing to look at a situation and say, okay, this is a situation. I'm not feeling it. I don't want to experience more of it. But then you say, I don't focus on that, but I go inside and how do I shift this? And sometimes you want to ask the question of what perhaps brought this into fruition. Was it thoughts that I have been thinking? Was it a choice I most recently made? Or it just appeared to just happen? And if it's one of those things that it appears to just happen, that's when you lean even more so into, oh, this is a bridge of incident. Things are always working out for me, even when they don't appear to be working out for me. That's important. And you always want to know that second point, everything is working together for the good of those who love the law and are called. That is, you're being led according to its purposes. That's why you're expanding. That's why you're growing, because you're being called, okay? Because you love the law. And that's important. And then this third point, like I said, is perception. So the metaphysical cycle is perception, feeling, beliefs gives you your manifestation. So today, we've covered three sacred truths in this short time that we have together. One, spiritual sight is your superpower. Yes, you don't wait to see good, you choose to call it forth. So that's one of your superpowers, spiritual sight. And the second thing, I want you to know that everything belongs, even pain, even loss, is being woven into the something that is redemptive for you. All things work together. No matter what it is you're going through, I can look back over my life. I've had some things that I've experienced, and I can call them back into the present. But like you, I also have things that I've experienced. Like me, you got things that you've experienced. And everything that you have experienced belongs in your life story because you grow through the things that you go through. Come on. You don't try to avoid them. You grow through them. You take responsibility. You take ownership. You man up. You woman up. Okay, so everything belongs. You don't go into the pity party. You don't go into the oh me, oh my. You don't go into I'm a victim. You stay away from those victim narratives. And then perception is what we call generative. How you see determines how you feel. If it looks bleak, you're gonna feel bleak. Okay? If it looks bad, you're gonna feel bad. If there's a possibility it can fall in your favor, you feel a little more favorable towards things. So how you feel shapes what you create. Feelings are everything. Now, take a breath. What if today you trained your mind to ask, where is the good in this situation? What is being born through this very moment? What truth am I being invited to remember? Life enrolls you in the possibility of growth. Sometimes it takes a situation to bring and to recall a scripture. And then it may take a situation for you to now take it to application. Because when you truly resolve to see only good, guess what? Your entire world begins to reflect it. Now, I want you to think about that. So just close your eyes right where you are as I lead us into a affirming prayer for today's presentation. So today we resolve to see only the good, even when shadows fall. We will hold to the truth that light remains. We see beyond appearances, beyond fear, beyond the noise of the world. We see with the eyes of source. We choose to magnify the good, to name it even when it's invisible, to anchor ourselves in the goodness of life. Spirit, make me a mirror of your perfection. Let today be a day of divine seeing. We shift our eyes to the higher possibility. We no longer look for what's wrong. We look for what's real, what's present. The love is always present, that you're never alone. So today, we see with clarity. We walk with faith and we respond with love. And so it is. Ashe. Well, I hope you got something out of those 3 points. I will send it out along with the worksheet. So, if this teaching and this particular ministry feeds your soul in some way, I welcome you to support it. And you can do that simply by using Cash App, or you can use Zelle. You use the number 708-368-1076. 708-368-1076. If you got PayPal, you could I don't use that too frequently, so let's stay away from that. So I we deal primarily in Zelle and Cash App. Or if you want to use snail mail, you can reach out to me and I'll give you the address. Okay. So we bless every gift, every intention, every act of support that has been given today and days that have gone by. May return to each of you multiplied as peace, provisions, and divine direction. So we bless every gift given in love. May it return in multiplied form as clarity, peace, and provision. Now, may today be the beginning of a new day, a new way of seeing for each of you, and a deeper way of living. If you'd like to stay for a few minutes, we're going to open the green room here. This is a casual space that we can connect, we can reflect, and share what's on your heart. I'd love to hear from you this morning. Awesome. All right, let me go over here to the green room. First of all, I see a number of people are with us over in the Zoom room. Good morning to you all. It's good to see you. I hope something was said that has been uplifting and encouraging. As we look here to the inside of the Zoom room this morning, I see there's Cheryl, there's Rachel. Good morning, Myrna. Hey, Michelle, Genevieve, Mom, and also Al. Good. Let me flip down through here, see if there's any questions. Rachel said, I desire to be the mirror of what I desire to see. What I desire to see. Now, you may notice seldom will you hear me use the word want, W-A-N-T, because it denotes missing, it denotes lack. And everything that we desire is already in the universe. It's in the invisible realm. And so I acknowledge it being in the invisible realm by saying desire. That is, I want to bring it from where I don't see it. I mean, from the place where it is to the place where where I desire to see it. So I have made a mental note to anytime I see want, I change that word to desire. Just like anytime I see the word um, Lord, I change it to law. Anytime I see God, I just change it to source. I soften it up, or I use it in a way that aligns with my expanded understanding. So that's good. Wow, the program is based on downloads and uploads. That's right. That's why it says guard your thoughts or guard your heart. Because your heart is the program. The heart is the place where we also emit the resonance. There's two power centers in the body, the brain and the heart. The brain is much more powerful in what it emits in the way of frequency, energy. The brain emits it, but the most powerful center you have is your heart. And so we want to learn to create from the heart and not the head. That's important. Now we work together. Everything that you have been given, you've been given the physical senses. I know sometimes when we look at traditional teachings, we often come across as if the sensory realm you should stray from. No, you should not walk solely in the sensory realm, but there should be a divine partnership. Just like we have the divine partnership between the divine feminine and the masculine energy and the feminine energy. We have to have a partnership between the sensory self and the spiritual self. So you have sight, natural, which often tell you what you need to go to work on, but you don't use the natural sight to create. You use that spiritual insight to create. And the same with every one of our feelings, every one of our senses are there to help us in this physical world, but we know the world that is physical is created from the invisible world. So you have to use those senses, the intuitive senses, to create the world you desire. You just can't operate from in the physical. I use my senses as a barometer of what's going on in this realm. And then I go to work away from these senses in the spiritual realm. And that's how you create things. All right. I don't see any questions. If you have a question, go ahead. You can raise your hand. There is one question here in the Q&A. Okay, I see that that was addressed. Chat was disabled, and I took care of that. Great. Awesome. All right. Let me see here. I choose to see good. Genevieve says, I desire to be a mirror of what I desire to see. That I intended to say desire. All right, good. And so when I do make mention of things like that, I'm not necessarily trying to correct anyone, but I'm trying just expanding and bringing attention to alternative ways of stating things that we can get the desired outcome. Okay, no, there's no other questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on. Enjoy this beautiful day that we have before us. You want to walk by faith and not by sight. You want to walk by the spiritual principles and not just solely by what you see. Okay. What you see should be the catalyst to let you to change or to go into gratitude. If you're seeing what you desire to see, and then you have gratitude and you give praise, you give thanksgiving for the thing desired being showing up in your life. If what's showing up in your life is very different from what you want to experience, you give gratitude for the fact that you're able to acknowledge this and you have the ability to change this. So that's really important. All right, I see, Myrna, you have the mic. Go ahead and unmute yourself there.
Thank you, and good morning to you.
Okay, I see you on the board.
Can
You
you hear me?
still appear to be
Hello?
muted, I guess, on your end. We don't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Hello? Hello?
I see you
Hello?
talking,
Ex-
but some reason I'm not hearing you. So let me see if it's something to do with my sound right quick. One second. There you go. Try it now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. That was on operator error.
Okay.
The night while I was asleep, the Zoom upgraded, so I got to go back in and reset all of my features. That's why I don't have a background this morning. Go ahead,
No,
Mark. Have the mic.
no worries. I wanted to just, well, first of all, I said good morning. Thank you very much. And good morning to you and good morning to everyone. Um, I am experiencing some things, and I'm really making a concerted effort to see the good and to operate, not see the good, but operate in the good, and really just taking the opportunity to hear God, hear Source, and um, be be observant as I trust um, moving forward. Our my nonprofit that I started, we've not had grants or funding come in the latter part of last year, and we were anticipating funding coming in the beginning of the year, and it did not. And with all of the changes federally, I don't know through the normal channels of things coming. Who knows? I'm open to it, of course. I just don't know. And so I'm very thoughtful of, okay, I am my desire twofold. One, to replace myself from the everyday, and so recognizing that the organization needs funds and resources to replace me and also grow the organization because we know that it's doing phenomenal work. It's the need for resources, and my desire is for me not to depend on grants, but for me to be able to operate in abundance and be able to fund it myself.
Mhm.
And so shifting to that possibility, shifting to that as an opportunity to flow in that space. Um, and it's an interesting place. We were anticipating things last year growing, and I spent like we were going to be growing, and then the funds stopped coming in, and so we had a so we're basically at the bottom of the barrel now, and I've asked my assistant to cut his hours. I've not had a check from the organization since April and well, before April, end of March. Um, and I'm grateful that God is sustaining me. And I'm wanting to shift in terms of not being dependent upon anybody for what God has assigned me to be able to be responsible for. And so it's a new pathway, and it's an uncomfortable pathway. But I'm not down or sad in it. It's okay. I'm believing it. And as Cheryl, when she was in town, giving me the pep talk about about walking in it and believing it, and how I speak about it. And I certainly practice those things. And so I just share with you guys that, hey, I'm going through to get to.
Yes, yes,
So
yes, yes. And so here's one of the things. Sometimes we we turn towards what we expect. That is like funding to come in a certain direction. And sometimes in doing that, we limit or we say to the universe, this is how it's going to be done. Instead of just saying, okay, I've done these things, here's an avenue, but I'm open to receive. You may have a donor that shows up and take care of everything that has nothing to do with anything you put in place. So you just all just know that source is your resource. Source provides. I've never seen the righteous forsaken or seeds begging bread. And so, one of the things I would encourage you to do is to take the funds out the equation and put the focus on what will the funds do, or what will once it's funded, and it is funded already. But once the funds begin to come in, what will you use them for? And so begin to celebrate like you've done it. You started the process. You spent as if it has already happened. And then you have to be careful because now you may say, I got out in front of myself. But no, then you come back and you say, it says give and it should be given. It say sow a seed, and in the seed that you sow, the thing must grow. And so you just call what you've done into existence, or you look at it as though, so I've done these things and they need to produce after their kind. And then be open to shifts, be open to changes, be open to a delay is not a denial. Okay. It may be a restructuring of how things are going to come to you. So I just want you to stay in the peace of expectation. That's what you want to stoke. What you want to cultivate, not anxiety. You want to cultivate expectation. And you know, you're right where you are. You after the word says, after having done what? All.
yeah,
And you've done all that you can do. Stand. That is, stand on the promises. Stand on the what you believe. You know, 10 toes down. And when standing means standing in expectation. Look into the hills, looking around, being observant, being expectation. This is might be the piece of mail. This might be the phone call. This might be the serendipitous meeting. So you never know. But
Absolutely.
he
And
says, source desires to do exceedingly abundantly above anything you can ask or think. Sometimes we tie the hands of source by saying, okay, I'm going on vacation, but I got to find an extra income or I got to find an extra job. So source respects that. He's going to let you look for it. Okay, it's going to let you look for that extra income. It's going to let you look for the extra job where someone could potentially bless you. Okay, they may say, "Hey, we just need our singer that we had not going to be able to make it, our performer, and we need you. We would like you to be the performer." And you guess what? It's in the very place you want it to be. So just stay in expectation and know that Source does exceedingly abundantly above. Take off all parameters that we put up by way of how Source can operate and just let them be. Does that make sense?
absolutely.
Oh, and thanks for sharing that. Good, good. Awesome. Well, anybody else this morning? If not, we're going to close up shop and I'll see you on tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. For those of you who join me for our morning meditations, 6 a.m. tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 6:15. You want to know more about that? Go ahead and go to the website, solutionsforliving.com, and you can poke around out there. You'll find a lot of good stuff. I assure you of that. Well, you guys have a wonderful evening or a wonderful day. Look for something serendipitous to head your way, and I'll chat with you in the morning. Peace. I'm out.